let me just say, I appreciate that you acknowledge that there are options on the table. They're not being utilized.
If you could acknowledge that the Democrats can open up the government and this problem won't be a problem.
You don't think that one concession to Democrats is okay? Like just one concession, which is the subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. So premiums don't double. That's the one thing they're asking for.
When we got people on furlough,
one thing.
Because we know what the solution is
because we love that premiums are going to double. We love it. We love it. Like, let all these Americans suffer.
In today's video, Ana Kasparian absolutely obliterates Harrison Fields and Joe Borelli on Newsnight with Abby Phillip. Ana Kasparian absolutely nails it here because this isn't about fiscal responsibility. It's about misplaced priorities. You've got politicians who can greenlight billions for corporate subsidies, tax breaks, and foreign military aid without hesitation. But the second we talk about SNAP benefits or extending healthcare subsidies for working families, suddenly everyone's a budget hawk. So let's dive in and watch how Ana Kasparian shuts down Joe Borelli and Harrison Fields on Newsnight with Abby Phillip.
You know, this is the shutdown that could very well just not end because nobody seems to be that interested in ending it. But for Americans who are on SNAP, this weekend is going to be where they're going to have to face the reality that, honestly, $188 in this economy is not even a whole lot of money for food, but it's going to go away.
I mean, luckily, we have the money to bail out Argentina to the tune of $40 billion. And by bailing out Argentina, of course, the Trump administration is helping to bail out the hedge funds invested in Argentina. It's not a good look when the Republican Party won't concede on the one thing that's important here, which is add the subsidies to the Affordable Care Act so people's health care premiums don't double. And that's it. That's what the Democrats are asking for. But Republicans refuse to sign on to that. And if we're going to keep having this dysfunctional government situation or congressional situation year after year, I mean, they're still collecting my taxes. Why are they collecting my taxes? For what? And what's the important work that Mike Johnson is doing right now and the Republicans are doing right now? Does anyone know? I mean, there's some Republicans on the panel right now. Can you guys tell me the important work they're doing?
All Republicans want is for Democrats to do what Democrats have demanded others do time and time again. What Democrats themselves have done, vote for clean CRs.
Do you think that premiums should double?
This has been
do you think premiums
the
should
premium
double?
that your party chose to have subsidies.
This is a product of the Democratic Party's own doing.
Should the premiums double?
And now they're looking and they're trying to point the finger at the Republican Party.
It's a simple question. Should the premiums double?
Should they open up the government? The answer is yes.
The government will
open up the government
if they
we can get
give
into
the
those
Democrats the
negotiations.
one thing they're asking for, which is a just issue.
You want to talk about premiums, and we just talked about SNAP benefits. Who cares about health care when you cannot put food on the table? You have millions
SNAP
of
benefits
Americans.
are important too.
You have a lot of Americans that are going to be without food stamps.
So you want the
because
Democrats
of the
to sign on to funding the government
and this is why
in a situation in which the premiums will double for Americans who already have a difficult time paying for their health insurance.
What is the difference? What is the difference of the bill? What is the difference for the bill that you voted for?
What is the difference?
There is a big difference.
This is the new Democratic Party.
I have to say, it's amazing to get lectures on how much you care about SNAP benefits.
Because I have family members on SNAP.
Well,
yes.
then why did you support the president when he asked for and got $186 billion of cuts to SNAP?
They were cleaning up the program from waste, fraud, and abuse.
Oh my
you and I
God,
both
that
know
is
that.
all ridiculous.
Because you cannot
people
have a program.
Go hungry
No.
From those SNAP
straw man's
cuts.
argument.
No,
you cannot have
those people. I'm sorry. You just paid for 186. You took $186 billion out of the SNAP program. $186 billion that will go
waste, fraud,
to
and
people.
abuse.
It's not waste, fraud, and abuse. It will. You like to say that, but it's actually false.
Look at what we actually did.
But
this is the overall problem. What you're mad about is the passage of one big beautiful bill. You guys have to realize that elections have consequences, and your side lost.
What's happening here is a perfect snapshot of how out of touch some people in Washington and their defenders have become. SNAP isn't some luxury handout. It's the only thing standing between hunger and survival for over 41 million Americans, according to the USDA. And let's be clear, the average SNAP benefit is barely $6 per person per day. That's it. You can't even get a full meal at McDonald's for that anymore. So when Republicans start tossing around words like waste, fraud, and abuse, What they're really saying is, we think feeding poor families costs too much. And those cuts they keep bragging about, the Congressional Budget Office found that the 2018 GOP proposal would have slashed benefits for roughly 2 million people, including seniors, disabled Americans, and working parents. That's not reform. That's cruelty with a spreadsheet. Meanwhile, the IRS just reported that the top 1% of earners avoid over $160 billion in taxes each year. But sure, the real crisis is a single mom using EBT at Kroger. And it's not just about food. The shutdown has frozen federal programs that support child nutrition, housing, and even veterans benefits, all while lawmakers collect their own paychecks uninterrupted. The irony is brutal. The same folks who complain about entitlement spending are the ones treating public office like their own lifetime subsidy.
Hold on one second. Just on the waste, fraud, and abuse point. Over the last 15 years, SNAP fraud has fallen from 4% to 1%. So there's already very little fraud in the SNAP program, according to the government.
$180 billion is a lot more.
Dude, the Pentagon hasn't passed a single
regardless
audit.
regardless of that, I mean, people who are on the program right now are going to not have benefits. I think it's interesting because the Trump administration says, you know, there's $6 billion in the emergency fund. $8 billion is needed to cover the month of November. They're saying that they can't use that money because that money needs to be set aside for, you know, hurricanes and other emergencies. But they've been willing to move money around for all kinds
for our
of
troops,
other
Abby. For aviation safety.
All kinds of other. They've been willing to move money around for all kinds of other reasons. The question is, why not this one? Tara, let me let Tara have a moment.
We have to all acknowledge that these are political games that are being played by both sides.
Of course, it's politics.
The Democrats could
CR
open
is
the
not a
government
game.
tomorrow, but they are using an old Republican tactic of closing the government to have leverage right now.
Who closed
okay?
the government?
This
This
is
is the
a strange
Democrats who
thing.
closed
okay,
it.
but they are doing it for leverage. And
Who?
The
Democrats
Republicans realize that the Democrats are not
You have the
holding,
number
so
two
now
in the
they are
House.
withholding SNAP
You have the
benefits,
number
which
two
they could
House
also
Democrats
do-
saying that this is a
Okay,
leverage
in
play.
Harrison, just one second.
2018, they had the same
It's
risk.
2025.
You just let
No,
her
in
finish for just a second.
2018, they had the same risk of losing food stamps, SNAP benefits, and they went into another reserve to cover it during Trump's longest shutdown. Okay?
And that was the Trump
And
administration.
so the point is that both are withholding funds.
You all
and
are
a-
ignoring-
and ability-
you all are
if they would
ignoring-
just sit down and actually
So
talk,
let's
we wouldn't be
just
having this
address
conversation
what
at
she
all.
said, because she's arguing, and I think there's good reason to believe that obviously there are political games being played here. Democrats are keeping the government shut down until they get concessions on health care. And the Trump administration, which in the past has used other funds to cover SNAP benefits, is not doing it now. Why?
Okay, we have to step back for a moment. The Democrats have been getting rolled for the past 9 months by the President of the United States. They haven't had an answer for how to get after what the President has been doing, his historic agenda. So now they have their rally around the flag moment. We're going to stick it to Trump. Who they're really sticking it to is the American people. They're holding this government hostage
I just
what?
want to let's just
If
address.
you open
let me
up
address
the
question
government,
that
we
I
can get to
asked
these
you.
negotiations about
No.
SNAP.
Let me re-ask you the question that I asked you, which is that we know that the Trump administration of the past has been willing to use other funds to cover SNAP benefits. We know that the Trump administration of present has been willing to use other funds to cover other emergency needs for people that need to be paid. Why will they not do this on the issue of food on the table for children under 5, children 5 to 17,
very clear of who's going to be impacted.
Adults over 60 years old, people with disabilities? I mean, is the answer as simple as they're not going to give Democrats anything, and maybe they think that this is going to hurt Democrats more?
This debate really exposes how skewed the priorities are right now. We're talking about millions of Americans who depend on SNAP just to feed their families. And instead of treating that like the emergency it is, the administration's playing politics with people's meals. The waste, fraud, and abuse excuse just doesn't hold up. The USDA's own Inspector General has repeatedly found that SNAP fraud rates are under 1%, and most of that comes from retailers. not recipients. So let's be real, this isn't about fiscal responsibility. It's about punishing the poor to make a political point. And here's the kicker. During Trump's own 2018 shutdown, the White House moved funds around to make sure SNAP stayed operational. So the precedent is there. If they could find emergency cash to protect food benefits, then they can do it now. What's changed? Politics. It's not about whether the money exists. It's about who they're willing to help. Meanwhile, there's over $6 billion sitting in the SNAP contingency fund, and yet the administration says they can't touch it because it's for natural disasters. But what do you call millions of kids, seniors, and disabled Americans losing food assistance overnight if not a national disaster? The government regularly reallocates funds for other emergency needs, everything from aviation safety to military construction. The refusal to do the same for food security shows exactly where the priorities lie. And this whole both sides are playing games narrative, that's a cop-out. One side is literally demanding healthcare subsidies stay in place so people don't see their premiums double. The other side is using food stamps as leverage to score political points. Those aren't the same thing.
You open
exactly
up
right.
the government, guess
That's
what
exactly
happens?
right. But-
People get SNAP
but
benefits
I
again.
know-
You're pointing the
again,
finger at the president
I'm
of the
not pointing
United
the
States
finger at
when
the
it's the
president. I'm just
Democratic Party
asking
that is
whether-
holding the government
listen,
hostage. Who came
Tara-
out today and
Tara's a
said this
journalist,
shutdown
so
has
she's
to
able
end?
to sort of put the politics
The
on the
Federal
table.
Workers
You're
Union
not
said this has to
acknowledging-
end.
You're not willing to acknowledge that politics is at play here. Is
What
it at
I'm
play?
saying is that the Democrats are playing politics with this shutdown.
Yeah,
Have
I don't
Republicans
think-
done it in
Yeah,
the
both
past?
sides are playing politics. It's very
1000%.
clear.
Granted, hold on one second.
We need
Granted,
4
hold on one
Democrats
second,
in the
Harrison.
Senate. 4.
Granted, the Democrats are playing politics with the shutdown.
With American
They are-
people's
They are
lives.
playing the very same shutdown game that Trump and Republicans played in his first administration on
Are
several
we dealing with the
occasions.
shutdown of 2018?
But now
or
you're
2020?
playing the whataboutism,
Let's
right?
talk about
You're
today.
playing
I'm
the
just saying,
whataboutism.
these are political games.
Can
Hold
I-
on a second.
But you know
No,
what?
no,
The
you
people
just-
on
you
SNAP
just hold on a
benefits
second.
don't care about
I'm
that.
asking you.
They don't care about it.
Will you acknowledge that the withholding of SNAP benefits in this moment is something that Trump doesn't have to do?
The administration can look at many ways to solve this problem. Look at what they're doing for our troops. Look at what they're doing for aviation safety. Is there a way to do it? I bet you Secretary Rollins is looking at it.
so
But the
there is.
one
Okay,
thing,
so there's- yes.
I
can you
appreciate
acknowledge?
that.
No,
Listen,
Abby,
Can you
I-
acknowledge that if the
I
Democrats
appreciate
open up
that
the
because
government,
I
we don't have to have a
can't-
conversation
Can
about
I
SNAP?
just make a point
Hold on
here?
1 second, everybody. Just a second. Let me just say, I appreciate that you acknowledge that there are options on the table. They're not being utilized.
If you could
The
acknowledge that the
second-
Democrats
but the
can open up the
secondary-
government and this problem won't be a problem.
literally
You
just
don't
said
think
that.
that one
The
concession
secondary-
to Democrats is okay? Like just
not-
one
it's not just
concession, which is
one
the
concession.
subsidies for the
No.
Affordable Care
Not
Act,
to
so
show-
premiums
to hold
don't
up this
double.
entire
That's
government?
the one thing they're asking for.
When we got
One
people on
thing.
furlough?
One
No.
thing.
Hold on,
Can I
just
just-
Because we
can
know
I
what the
just-
No, no,
solutions
because
about.
we love that premiums
Because
are
you're
going to
mad-
double.
because
We
you're
love
mad
it.
that
We
we
love it.
passed
Like, let
one
all
big,
these Americans
beautiful bill.
suffer.
Just
I
a
think we're
second.
really
Can I
sad
ask-
about that, guys.
Go ahead.
Can I just say how I predict this will end? This will end. I'm not sure who will wave the white flag first. I doubt it will be Trump, but he will end up giving the concession of the subsidies. He's already said it. He knows
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that's
He
Why not
said
do it
it.
now?
This debate really shows how broken the priorities in Washington have become. We're talking about millions of Americans who depend on SNAP and affordable healthcare just to survive. And somehow that's the thing getting used as a bargaining chip. SNAP isn't some bloated, wasteful program. According to the USDA, over 80% of SNAP households include a child, senior, or disabled person, and the fraud rate is less than 1%. So when Republicans talk about fiscal discipline, what they're really saying is we'd rather cut food aid than corporate subsidies. And it's not just about food stamps. It's the same story with healthcare. The Congressional Budget Office estimated that if the ACA subsidies expire, over 3 million Americans could lose coverage and millions more will see premiums double. That's not a partisan talking point. That's straight from the data. So when Democrats ask for a single concession to keep healthcare affordable, that's not playing politics. It's preventing an economic and humanitarian disaster. Meanwhile, the same administration claiming it can't find funds for SNAP somehow managed to move billions for other priorities, including military contracts and aviation projects during previous shutdowns. So the money exists. It's just being selectively allocated. And here's the truth no one on the right wants to say out loud. The 2018 Trump shutdown lasted 35 days, the longest in US history. And back then, the White House did reallocate funds to keep SNAP operational, so pretending their hands are tied now is just political theater. Pause. Are you getting tired of getting half the story from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, left, right, and center are covering the same story. So you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed, think for yourself, and check out ground news in the description down below.